Hello friends, good afternoon to the Tarakki Talks uh, from ICICI Prudential Asset Management Company. My name is Chintan Harya and as always it's a pleasure to be connected to all of you. Well, it's been quite a few months in the last 3-4 months with lots of ups and downs. What we thought was, as always, like we connected in the last month and tried to give you an overview as to what's happening in the equity and debt markets. I'll try and cover that, as well as one very special topic which is very debated these days, that is value investing. And if we look at it, there are lots of articles and write-ups coming up on value investing as we speak. And I'll try and cover that as well. And then the importance of asset allocation for all of us. And we should never forget the fact that asset allocation in the long run is what helps us create wealth. And as part of the asset allocation, where do debt mutual funds fit in? Because that's something which we should never ignore. And of course, at the end, I'll try and cover the questions which all of you have in mind. And I'm sure there are many questions across economy, sectors, stocks, various asset classes. And I'll try to cover as many of them as I can. So let me start with the market view or the market overview right now and what has been happening in the markets. Like I mentioned last time, in the month of March, of course, things did not look that good because of the virus spread leading to markets coming down. And as a policy response, you found a lot of announcements by central governments and central banks that they will increase liquidity in the markets, starting from US, then Japan, then the European Union. And a concerted effort in terms of all of these three meant that there was so much more money, liquidity available in the markets, or the potential liquidity which was going to be available in the markets. That meant that in March itself, we saw the market started to rally towards the end of March. And that has continued April, May, June, and even in July as we speak, including today, if we see the markets were in a positive territory. Now, this is not just in India, it's across the globe. There is a concerted rally across the world in equity markets. And that is mainly on account of the optimism that we have been able to, as humanity, live with or cohabitate with COVID and move on, leading to the opening up of many of the countries which had earlier seen lockdown. I was just looking at some data yesterday on the internet, and if we go back in March and think about it, India was not the epicenter. The epicenter for COVID was Italy, France, and Spain. And if you look at that point of time, Italy, France, and Spain, we used to keep on continuously seeing that in news that they have the highest number of cases. It is quite bad out there. Today, if you actually go and have a look and Google search, you will find that Italy, France, Spain, they've gone through that worst time period in March, and coming to July, their recoveries and new infections or new cases as far as COVID is concerned are very, very low. So that gives us hope that in India as well, where it started to increase from March very, very sharply in April, May, and currently as we speak, we are already the third most infected country in terms of the number of COVID cases total. There is hope that we will also probably see, much like Italy, France, and Spain, a peak sometime in the next 2-3 months, and then obviously things normalize. This is the biggest hope, and I pray that for the benefit of all of us, that is how actually it happens. Because we have started unlock 1, unlock 2, and obviously as more and more people start going out and more and more interactions happen, there is a scare that this disease can actually see a level 2 or a phase 2, if we can say so. Let's hope it doesn't happen, but going by what's happening in Italy, Spain, and France, I'm hopeful that that does not happen. So what does it mean for the equity markets? And the rally which has already happened? Clearly, it's on the back of liquidity. And still, if I look at some of the valuation parameters in India, if I look at the market capitalization to GDP, which is one of the core parameters which one should keep in mind, we are around 70 to 75% in market cap to GDP. Long-term average in the last 10 years has been closer to 95 and 100. And that means that there is scope for India to get re-rated on the market cap to GDP number as we move along over the next 2-3 years. Also, we must remember that in the last 5 to 6 years, because of various reasons like NPA write-offs, etc., there has been low earnings growth in the markets, and that low earnings growth in a low growth environment and low inflation environment has meant that the markets have also been very, very muted in terms of their returns for the last 5 years, 10 years, if I have to look at the market returns. So what should an investors expect going ahead? If I have to crystal gaze going ahead, we will see the economy opening up. With the economy opening up, hopefully, many of the sectors which were going through a lot of problems because of the lockdown, they will slowly start easing up. Already, if we see the tractor sales, the two-wheeler sales, they're kind of inching up. If I look at the power demand in India, that is also inching up. I think the last number which we saw was we've reached about 80-85% of the pre-COVID lockdown power demand. So be it power demand, be it tractor sales, be it two-wheeler sales, things are looking good on the horizon. And if I look at even the monsoons, monsoon in India is expected to be normal, which means that 70% of India, which is agrarian, there things can remain buoyant. So the good news is that we as a country today, in terms of valuation on market cap to GDP, are reasonably valued. If I look at the green shoots in terms of power consumption, two-wheeler sales, tractor sales, power demand, it seems that we are normalizing. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that there is no big second wave of COVID which can again derail this normalization. As we normalize, of course, markets have also normalized, and that is seen in the rally that you've seen in April, May, and June. And if this liquidity from the globe and the developed countries continues, you will find that as we move along, the amount of dollars that are there would mean that dollar will depreciate, and the depreciating dollar can actually mean positivity for the emerging markets. Historically, we've seen 2002 to 2008, the rally which happened on the back of dollar depreciation. In other words, dollar losing its value. And similarly, over the next 3 to 4 years, because of the excess supply of dollar, if dollar starts to lose value, then there is scope that we may end up seeing emerging markets do well. And within emerging markets, if 2002 to 2008 was the glory period for China, probably 2020 to 2025, India can get a significant benefit from this dollar depreciation and the resultant money supply or money coming from developed countries to emerging markets. India, if I look at it in terms of foreign exchange reserves, pretty healthy. I think $500 billion is the last number that I remember seeing. So we have a strong 12-month of import cover, and that also means that as a country, we are in a stronger shape. We have interest rates which are much higher relative to the rest of the world, especially the developed countries, which means that from a economy perspective, we are stable. And because of the large population that we have, you will find that there are many companies which are willing to invest in India. There's one large company, the world's one of the world's largest phone makers, who's pledged to basically invest $40 billion in India over the next 5 years for shifting 1/5 of their manufacturing capacity. This is one company, it's a large company, and you may find that such announcements keep on happening, which essentially would mean that we will see equity money coming in. That means foreigners or foreign institutional investors who took out money in March, they may come back in terms of investing in India. Already that has started happening in April, May, and June in a small manner. If I look at foreigners in debt as well, foreign money will probably come to Indian debt as well, because Indian debt relative to the Western world has higher interest rates. And if I look at foreign direct investments, in other words, foreigners setting up companies in India, setting up manufacturing units in India, or buying companies in India outright, there is a very high chance that that may happen. So we will see money coming into India, which is good for the rupee, which is good for our economy, and that can mean that economy is growing very, very significantly. If I look at from a perspective of what does it mean from a market and what are the sectors that one should look at, that's where I would probably try to now speak about the value theme or the value as a category. Now, in the last 7 years, if I look at it, globally as well as in India, because of the easy money supply and the lowering of interest rates, people were happy to buy quality names, and they kept on buying quality names to the extent that anything that had growth, because in a low interest rate environment, anything that had got growth had got priced to a very high level in terms of price to earnings. And if I look at it today, most of the growth sectors that, as we call it, and the consumption sector, the FMCG sector, their price to earnings multiples are pretty high. And as a result of which, if we see, lower interest rates has propelled growth companies to be priced significantly at a significant premium to their past averages. And corollary to that, or if I look at the other spectrum, many of the cyclical sectors like metals, like oil and gas, like power utilities in India, telecom up until now as well, they are possibly priced at a lower level compared to their long-term averages. And if I see from a perspective of opportunity size, and if I look at the future, clearly the expensive valuations of some of the companies can prove to be an impediment in their future growth in terms of stock market prices, while the value sectors, be it energy, be it metals, be it power utilities, many of the small and mid-cap names as well, there is a scope that value as a theme may end up doing well in the next 3 to 5 years. There was one report which I was reading from a research agency, from a brokerage house, which said that even in US, it has been seen that whenever there is a US election, and we know US presidential elections are around the corner sometime in November, and if one has invested in years where US election has been 6 months before the US elections, normally the value theme has played out. And we as a firm also believe that value as a theme should be looked at, because there you are getting stocks at reasonable valuations or cheap valuations. Typically, because in the last 5-6 years, these stocks have not been doing well. Their ownership patterns are such that not many people own them. And currently, if you look at it, the ownership patterns generally tilt towards the mega caps or towards the good quality names, which are very, very expensive. So from an investor perspective, it always helps to be away from the herd, or most of the times it helps to be away from the herd if you have a longer term horizon. And if we see learnings from the past history, whenever there is a particular sector which ends up doing very, very well, there is a chance that for the next 5-10 years, that sector consolidates. Similarly, whenever a theme does very, very well, like for example, the growth stocks or the growth theme has done very, very well, the FMCG theme has done well. In the last maybe 5-6 years, maybe in the next 3-4 years, there will be a consolidation and the leadership will be taken up by some other sectors. And it is typically some large event, either financial or non-financial, which normally causes this leadership change to happen in the market. If I go back and see history, the year 2000 when we had the tech bubble burst, post that the technology stocks leadership went down, and the consumption stocks leadership started to take leadership. Post 2008, the infrastructure and capital goods, real estate, power theme started to come off, while the good quality FMCG, healthcare and IT boom started after 2008. Similarly, today, if I see in terms of the market, last 5 years, we've seen a very big shift, a big tilt towards high quality growth names. And probably as we move along in the next 3 years, the pandemic will prove to be, in hindsight, a trigger for value to do well as we move along. So clearly from our perspective, we are believers that there is value as a theme has scope to basically deliver better risk-adjusted alpha to the investors. With that, I'll move on to the other aspect. While we've covered market and value as a theme, the importance and the high importance of asset allocation is something which we never forget. And hence, every time I speak with all of you, we will speak about asset allocation, because it is mathematically proven that if you get asset allocation right, it really is a question of then choosing a reasonable portfolio within the asset allocation mix. And I think you should be doing fine as far as your overall health of your wealth is concerned. So from that perspective, what is asset allocation? Again, just to remind all of you, asset allocation is having the right mix of all asset classes In India, typically among the financial side, we have equity and debt. Among the non-financial side, you have real estate and gold. And of course, for certain segments of the market also, then there's art collection, etc. But that's generally not for all of us. In general, our investments will be in equity, debt, gold, and real estate. And if I look at it at each point of time, it is very important to have the right mix from a asset allocation perspective. If I stick to within financial assets, what should be the right mix? And that generally is something which is not taught to us anywhere, or it's something which is not come naturally to all of us, because as investors, as people who basically have the money, it's always greed and fear which is working in our minds. And hence, if you see, it is very easy to invest in markets when the markets are doing well. Say in 2017, it was very easy when the markets were really doing well. In 2020 March, which is just 3 months back, when the markets fell by more than 20%, how many of us actually gathered the courage to invest in markets? We were all worried about the market falling further, and that's where the market returns and the investor returns are normally not the same. Markets tend to have ups and downs, but in the long run, they basically are in an upward trajectory. While investors, because of greed and fear, participate when the markets are doing well, go away from the markets when the markets are doing badly, and that hurts the investor returns, and hence there is a disconnect between investor returns and the market returns. So to avoid this disconnect, if I may say, it is important to have asset allocation as a core of your thought process in terms of wealth creation. And that means that you, based on your own risk appetite, based on your own risk assessment, your ability to digest risk, should have an equity and debt mix, which is based on valuations, which is based on your own risk appetite. That's where probably the dynamic asset allocation category comes in very handy. If you look at the dynamic asset allocation category, it generally, or the balance advantage fund category as it's also called, it generally is a good way to look at where you should be in terms of equity allocation and where you should be in terms of debt allocation for majority of us, given the market valuations. So if markets become very cheap, you can have a higher equity allocation. If market becomes very expensive, you can have a lower equity allocation. And typically, if you see the dynamic asset allocation funds category or the balance advantage fund category, they do this on a regular basis, and by buying low, selling high, and rebalancing the equity portion when the equity markets are either doing too well or too badly, by buying low, selling high, in general, you will find the dynamic asset allocation funds suit your asset allocation requirements reasonably well. So do educate yourself about asset allocation. You can speak to any of your relationship managers. You can speak to any of the advisors that you speak to, and they will be able to guide you that based on your current income, your age, your responsibilities, your next 6-7 years liabilities, and your earning power, how much of your money should go into equities, how much of your money should go into debt, and then when it has to go to equities, more importantly, within equities where it can be allocated, and then as far as debt is concerned, within that where it can be allocated. Now, equities in general, of course, we believe today, like I said, the dynamic asset allocation category is good. The multi-cap category also, because of the underperformance of mid and small caps, can be looked at. On the debt side, and that's very, very important. Now, while asset allocation is something which all of us need to follow, we can't ignore fixed income investments, because mutual fund fixed income investments allow you to participate in the falling interest rates, because the underlying bonds or the underlying securities which are in debt mutual funds, when interest rates fall, the prices of the underlying instruments go up, and vice versa. When interest rates go up, the prices fall. When interest rates come down, the prices of the securities go up, which is the debt portfolio of mutual funds. And if in general we go by that rule, currently we are in an environment where, if you see over the last 3 months or so, the Indian Central Bank has cut rates, and it almost looks likely that in the next maybe 3 to 6 months, because of the lockdown and because of the let's say slowdown in economic activity, interest rates may further be cut by banks as well, and that will get reflected in corporate bond interest rates also coming down. So to participate or take advantage of those falls, we would recommend all of you to basically have a look at the entire debt mutual fund category as well. It's something which, if handled well, and there are various categories, or within the debt mutual fund, there are various buckets in terms of duration, maturity, and quality. Again, I advise all of you to speak to your relationship manager, because in a falling interest rate environment, you to take advantage of the falling interest rate environment, it becomes very, very important to basically be invested in the right measure, in the right asset class, which is the fixed income mutual fund. With that, probably I've covered a large part of what I wanted to cover. In terms of if I have to say, how is our SIPs better? This question keeps on coming to us, and I'd like to highlight that. Should I continue with my SIP? Should I stop my SIP? And the markets have fallen. Now markets have risen. What should I do? We earn it every month. We save every month. We invest every month. I would say that please do not touch your SIPs. In fact, if you can SIP it for a long and really long time, it will mean that you are accumulating investments and units over a really long time in a very, very regular manner. And that should help in terms of your building of wealth. One thing which I'd like to leave the audience or the thought with all of you is that in India, unlike in the US, we have a very low percentage of our investments in equities or our savings in equities. In US, that number is in excess of 40%. In India, that number is anywhere between 4 to 6%. And hence, from our perspective, while we worry a lot about equity markets going up or down, and we see it and we worry about it, we read about it, and today in an information superhighway age, we end up having so much of information that it sometimes clouds our thought. Asset allocation will help you to avoid making mistakes of taking hasty decisions. So if your asset allocation says that you should be 30% in equity, and if you're in 30% in equity and the market is falling, do not worry about it, because you are rightly placed. And in fact, if equity allocation has to be increased, that asset allocation will again tell you that please increase your equity allocation because markets have become cheap. So with that aspect, do not worry about your SIPs. Do not worry about your long-term investments in equities. Equities as an asset class are a non-linear asset class. In the long run, they tend to beat inflation, but in the short run, they are very volatile. And it is this very volatility which has basically ensured that every 10 years, a large section of Indians who used to invest in equities vow never to invest in equities. I do not want any one of you to be part of those who think that, okay, equities is not for me. If you invest smartly and if you invest regularly, and in the long run, if you keep investing and accumulating units in equities, there is a chance that your wealth will get added upon. And let's remember that equities as an asset class for all of us is a smaller asset class, and in a low interest rate environment, equities as an asset class ends up becoming more, let's say, more attractive because interest rates are on the way down. With that, probably I will pick up a few questions which have come from the audience. I'll just have a look. Just give me a second. Yeah. So currently, obviously, there don't seem to be many questions, but I at my end have tried to cover some of the important questions. I think one question which comes to me very often from investors is that I'm looking to invest in foreign securities. I'm looking to invest in foreign markets. Is this the right time? To that, I'd probably like to say that compared to the Indian markets, let's say the US markets in terms of market cap to GDP are currently at 150% market cap to GDP. No doubt the interest rates there are low. No doubt the corporates' earnings have been much better. But if I just look at this metric, they seem to be at a late cycle and at a time when the US elections are around the corner. Probably we'll see some amount of volatility in the US market. So as an allocation, I think you need to be sure how much allocation based on your risk appetite you can invest in international markets. But within the international markets, probably our preference stands today in the Asian markets, within the international markets, and US markets because of their performance in the last 5-6 years, which has been good. We would like to probably see some amount of correction before we can give a buy call or before we can become positive on that. If you want to accumulate units over a period of time through systematic investment plan and make your asset allocation proper as per what your asset allocation tells you, there is absolutely no problem. You can do that. And if I look at various options available in India today or investing outside, you can invest in US, you can invest in Asia. So have a look at all the options available in international investing, and then probably take the call of investing. But do it systematically, do it over a period of time. Don't rush to do it in one go, because of the fact that last 5 to 6 years, the outperformance of the developed markets has been higher compared to the emerging markets. With that, probably I will end this conversation and look forward to probably connecting with all of you next month as well. And stay home, stay safe. Let's hope that the COVID goes behind us as quickly as it came, and we are all able to live a normal life. And more importantly, from an investment perspective, we are able to take right asset allocation calls, and through the right investments, create wealth as we move along. And remember, every fall is an opportunity which the investor should not miss. And at the same time, every time there is a significant rally and the markets become overheated, you need to be afraid or you need to be worried and relook at the portfolio. And all of this is more or less done in the dynamic asset allocation category or the balance advantage fund category, because they end up buying low and selling high. So it suits and fits the investor's requirements, and that's where we believe that investors must have, who are looking at asset allocation as a category, should look at the dynamic asset allocation or the balance advantage fund category. Thank you, and over to you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.